the Indiana Pacers after this Game 1 win over the Bucks.
Go ahead.
Rick, what were you pleased about execution-wise from your team today?
I thought the first half, our level of persistence was good, and it was consistent. Things stalled out some in the third quarter. I got to look at it. I haven't looked at any of the film yet. But the series is 1/7 over, and game two will be monumentally more difficult than this one.
Big plays in that third quarter. How did that help you guys survive that Buck stretch in the second half?
Well, around the rim, he's a big factor, and he got some big rebounds, and he hit some important shots. And so, the important thing for us is when we attack, trying to find the right shots. We fell into a thing in the second half where we took some shots that were shots, but they weren't the best shots for us. And Milwaukee had a lot to do with it. So as you look at things from game to game, that'll certainly be one of the adjustments that we make.
That was my last question, but what else would you like to see some improvement in as it goes to Game 2 on Tuesday?
A lot of things. I mean, Giannis got to the basket too much. We're trying to build walls. He's still getting there. And he's a great player, and great players cause, collateral problems. And so it's not a surprise, but, we got to look at that. We fouled them a lot. We've got to cut down on fouls, and we'll see. I mean, the ebbs and flows of a series are so up and down. It's impossible to predict exactly what's going to happen from game to game.
That being said, obviously you go into this knowing Giannis is probably going to score. I imagine one of the biggest things you want to do is make sure he's not getting double-figure assists like he was. He only had one. Obviously, you were able to hold everybody else to better than manageable numbers. I mean, how did you like how you managed to make life at least a little bit difficult on him and make sure that nobody else was beating you?
Well, I mean, their shooters got going in the second half, and that's a concern. Now, some of those shots weren't necessarily coming off the first pass, but he had some hockey assists on those. So, we got to look at all that stuff. In an NBA game with great players, you can't take away everything, So we got to keep working on making it hard. And then, look, from game to game, there's no telling who's going to be available from a personnel standpoint. We got to be ready for Dame to come back, and a whole host of things.
Obviously, Ben Mathurin and Jarris Walker, basically Ben playing his first playoff minutes, Jarris playing kind of his first really meaningful, playoff minutes. What did you like about this? The contributions you got, especially from both of them in the first half.
I think they both did a very solid job out there. Mathurin's offense in the first half was a big factor. He had drives. He was active around the basket and cuts. Jarris hit a big shot. It's great for those guys to jump right into the deep end. Against a seasoned veteran playoff team in Milwaukee. I mean, they got a lot of guys that played a lot of playoff games, and to feel what it's like. The second half was a little bit different for everybody. It just, they went more zone. They got it slowed down a little bit. And so the game's going to feel different. It's going to be different. And so we got to look at that. But overall, I was very happy for them. It was a great opportunity for them to get right into it. And some very good things happened.
Remember last year you guys made a point of telling Drew that there was going to be scoring opportunities there, even in this series and the playoffs in general. And obviously, you attacked right out of the gate. Just what did you like about his approach, especially early on scoring the basketball?
Everybody on our team's got to be armed and dangerous, to score. Striking the right balance is everything for our team. And so as we get into this and you go from game to game, there's going to be different storylines. There's going to be different skirmishes during the game. There's going to be all kinds of that stuff. We've got to maintain a level head and a high level of aggression, while also maintaining poise.
Rick, Tyrese struggled shooting the ball tonight, but what'd you like about his overall game and still obviously doing what he normally does, getting guys involved?
Yeah, I don't worry about his shooting. It took a while for him to get on the board, but every team is going to be trying to make life miserable for him, and he understands it, and he's developed a really good discipline and patience when teams, try to take him out of it early. So, I'll have to look at the whole game to be really, really able to give you a global answer on that. But I thought he balanced things very well. And I thought defensively, his attention to detail was very good in this game. And it's got to be very good for everybody because these guys cause so many problems, and we're talking about a game where Lillard didn't even play yet, so there'll be a lot going on as we move forward.
Rick, you mentioned the other day that Pascal has understated greatness. What do you mean by that? What makes him understated and great at the same time?
Well, I think the average person watching the game wouldn't presume that he was 10 for 15 with 25 points. I think that's it. And a lot of his baskets come at in timely parts of the game, and for some reason they kind of get overlooked a little bit, But that's part of his grace as a competitor, and so he's obviously very, very important to us. Thanks.
Presented by State Farm. Let's go ahead and hear from Myles Turner with the Indiana Pacers.
Hey, Myles, what did you think was the key to getting off to that big lead in the first half?
Momentum, carried, I think, great through Cambridge today. When you start the game off hitting shots and getting the crowd into the game, works well in your favor. So I think we did a good job of establishing the way we wanted to play early and then, defensively just flying around.
Myles, you held them to 98. What did you like about what you guys did defensively today?
I think we just made them be decision makers. At the end of the day, it's not a one-man job guarding Giannis or some of their better players over there. It's a team effort. I got to give a lot of credit to Pascal Siakam. To carry the offensive load and also the defensive load like that. It's going to be daunting. It's a tough one on all series, but we got his back.
Myles, you had 4 blocks today. You had the one in the third quarter on Giannis where the crowd just goes crazy. What do moments like that in a playoff game do for a team?
Momentum changers or momentum shifters at that. I think it's huge, especially when you're at home. You have to keep the crowd into the game. It's a big part of the playoffs, something I've learned just in my experience because, just momentum plays a huge part in just, I guess, our style of play as well.
And then I saw Mathurin had 9 of his 13 in the second quarter. How